Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Shelley Meyer YouTube channel and the Women in Medicine Be the Change podcast. I'm so excited to have Dr. Nancy Huynh here, and we are going to talk about her path from ophthalmology to real estate investing and how much success she's there and resources and how that has really helped her branch out. So Dr. Huynh, it's so great for you to be here. Can you tell us a little bit about your story? It's such a unique kind of background going from ophthalmology to real estate investing.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Shelley. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with your audience. So just in a nutshell, my story started off like many of your audience, went straight through college, through med school, through training. And we all kind of have that idea that once we finish training, we've had it made. We're going to earn that big income. We're going to be that big attending, and life is all good. We get married, have kids. So I went through all that. I did all that, trained at the top programs, and finally got to it. When I got to it, I really enjoyed what I was doing. But as I was practicing more and more through the years, I found out, this wasn't quite what I signed up for. The practice and the business of medicine and the system was not really what I had expected. I thought it was going to be all roses and unicorns, truthfully. And just the lack of autonomy with administrators, insurance companies, the government telling you how you should practice and what you should prescribe. And then I also realized that my job, my secure job as a doctor, I was told all along, everyone's going to need healthcare. Don't worry. This is the most stable job. Wasn't quite as secure because I was just one email away from people saying, so I just thought that my medicine and my career in medicine wasn't as secure because I was literally one email away from saying, hey, your salary is being cut 20% because of leadership changes, or the reimbursements for your services for your surgery is going to be cut because the insurance company or the government decides that it's just not worth it as much. And that's when I was like, this doesn't seem very right to me. I got to figure out a different way and be more in control, at least of that aspect. Right. So I dug deeper and really found out that there were these other investments outside of what I was doing with the stock market, 401ks, which was what I was doing, just dumping money in there, hoping and praying that it'll be there when I'm 60 something and retiring. And I found out there was this whole different path. And that was real estate for me through this vehicle. And that's how I kind of transitioned into that. And it's been powerful because it's really given me passive income and the choice to practice how I want to, and just more freedom to explore all these other aspects of myself that I didn't even know, right? Because when you're in training, you kind of have your blinders on. So it's just been able to explore all these other aspects of me that I never discovered before.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to so many women about burnout and just the state of medicine, not only for women physicians, but for males as well. And that we just have this lack of autonomy, lack of control, like you were just referencing. And I think to find other ways that don't necessarily mean that we have to quit medicine, that we can kind of parallel with it and have that security. I think that's essential. And just to have that mindset of that freedom, because we don't want to feel like we're under the thumb of insurance companies or whoever's the boss. I don't know who's the boss anymore, but is really key. So first of all, did you have some experiences of some kind of burnout in your past?
I wouldn't necessarily say burnout, but I definitely felt like it was becoming a grind.
Right.
Because literally I felt like I was just a little machine on a runway, and I was running in and out between patients every 15 to 20 minutes. And I couldn't really practice the way I want to. Right. And I just felt like a number because the metrics that they pull were just, you saw this amount of patients and it doesn't really reflect the quality of care.
Exactly.
So I just really felt like I'm just a machine in this cogwheel and I don't want to be that.
And who was it serving? Right?
Yeah.
Who was it serving? Yeah.
Yeah. And I really felt frustrated, particularly with the administrators who have no medical degree, have never stepped foot in the clinic or the OR, saying, you got to see more patients. You got to be more productive.
I know.
When they know nothing about it.
Right. And if they really look at, everybody knows this in medicine, but if you really look at the outcomes, they're not, time with patients is a better outcome, right? But they're not valuing that at all. So anyway,
another story, right?
We'll talk about hope instead, something we have control over, right? So then how did you start to dip your toes into real estate?
I literally got educated, read books, listened to podcasts, sought out mentors and people who have done it before and said, how can I do this? And what education do I need to do? Because I always advise people before you start anything, just get a basic understanding of what you're getting yourself into. So once I felt pretty comfortable with that, I built up a team and started putting in offers. And I got an offer, a duplex right in my backyard in Atlanta, and off to the races I went. So really just getting educated and taking action. Yes,
that's key. And so you are doing multifamily investing now? You're doing that? So that means the duplex, but beyond that as well, bigger kind of investments. Can you tell us about those?
Absolutely. So I started off real estate by buying my own property. So the single families, duplexes, smaller multifamily triplexes. And even with a property manager, it was taking quite a bit of my time because if you think about it, you got to look at the property, you got to research it, you got to put in the offer. And if you get rejected, you got to say, do I have to counter offer? And even if you get accepted, you got to arrange for the inspection, negotiate, close. And as a mom and as a doctor, I was already busy enough as is. Yeah. So I just felt like, is this really worth it for, a couple $100 in cash flow? So I started looking at different ways that people invest. And I discovered real estate syndications. I had never heard of that term. And basically it's passive investing. And what it is that investors or people pull together their money to purchase a larger property, like an apartment or a hotel. You could purchase anything through a syndication. Wow. But I purchased, I was familiar with residential living, spaces. So I focused on apartments because I think it's really a great asset class. And then I started passively investing and I was like, this is like awesome because literally I was, I was getting the benefits of owning real estate, but didn't have to deal with all that hassles of being a landlord. Even if I had a property manager, they still call you like the roof's leaking. Do you want to approve this work order? And then you're personally liable because your name is on the loan. If something happens to the tenant on the property, even if you put in an LLC, it's still kind of under you. Yeah. So with syndications, you don't have to deal with all that. And I found it very powerful and I got better, if not greater returns, equal, if not better returns compared to my active property. So I've kind of shifted my portfolio towards the passive investing.
That's great. I mean, my husband was raised in kind of real estate, like as far as but not in the syndication way, but in, buying home. His parents, they were always moving because they would buy a different flip it and rent it out. So we already had that going on. And then he, sold a couple of places so that we could buy the building that I have my practice in. And so it's an old house. It's really cute. And we rent out space, but we're landlords and that's hard, and he also does some property management. He's a teacher, but he does property management for friends. And I see how many calls he gets on the weekends, on the evenings. And, he does it small scale, but as physicians, we just don't have the time to do that. We don't have the time to be property managers.
Right. As physicians, I think you also have to think about, Shelley, the time of your, the value of your time, right?
Your time, right.
Because if you're spending all that time dealing with that, even with property managers, is that really worth it? Versus a syndication. Yes, I have to do the upfront work that might take a couple of hours, but it's said and done. So if you compare the two, I just really found I don't have to just look at the numbers. I have to really look at what is the value of my time. And that's really how I made that decision to go the little bit more passive route.
Okay. Well, I can imagine some people might be thinking, do you have to have a huge amount of money to do something like this?
Absolutely not. So some of my properties that I've put down payments on are a lot more than the minimum investments for these deals. So the minimum investment amount varies, but typically the minimum is about $50K. Some of them are like $100K and some even more, but I would say the range is about $50 to $100 is the minimum.
And then you're just part of the team and you're not really managing, correct? That's
correct. Correct. Yeah. I like to give a great analogy that I heard of how syndications work, because a lot of people have never heard of this term. Probably.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah. Because when I first heard it, I was like, syndication, what? Is it some Ponzi scheme, multi-level marketing type of thing? Right. But this great analogy I heard is, imagine an airplane ride. Say you're trying to get from Los Angeles to Boston. You have the pilots and then you have the passengers. Okay. You're all trying to get to the same destination. So if you want to get from Los Angeles to Boston, you could buy a Boeing 747 if you want. You likely can't buy that to purchase that flight. Mm-hmm. So basically you get a bunch of passengers to sit in it and then the pilot flies it. So there's two key players in a syndication. There are the general partners who are the sponsors. Mm-hmm. And then the limited partners. So the general partners are the ones who are finding the deals, finding the loan, closing on it, taking out the loan, managing the property afterwards. And the limited partners are kind of like the passengers who just kind of sit back, enjoy their meal, their glass of wine, watch TV, snooze off while the plane takes off. I want to be
that person.
Yeah, exactly. And then the pilot, if there's weather turbulence or the engine breaks down, they have to deal with it. You don't know how to do it. You're not going to do it, but you're all trying to get to the same destination. So I really like that analogy because it kind of illustrates, what your role is when you're passively investing.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about how you're now helping others learn more about this.
So when a lot of my doctor friends, particularly women physicians, found out I was doing real estate on the active side, they were interested in getting into it because I think everyone kind of has this intrigue about real estate, right? So I started telling them the process. I was like, first, you find a realtor and then you find a property manager, you have to do the inspection. And then literally like after the third step that I tell them, their eye kind of glaze over and it's like, yeah, never mind. I'm going to get back to my kids who are screaming in the background, Right. But when I discovered passive investing and started sharing that, people became a lot more interested. Like a lot of my women physician friends became a lot more interested because it fits our lifestyle a lot more. We're dealing with work, busy enough as is, dealing with kids at home. A lot of us that we want the benefits of real estate, but we really don't want everything else associated with it. So they started getting really, really interested. And they're like, well, I don't really want to learn all this. I do, but I don't want it as in depth as you do because I get really into it. So there's like, can you guide me through it? So I kind of taught them and brought some of my friends in some deals I was investing. And I was like, they were very grateful because they saw a different light of like, hey, there is this different path. So I started doing that more and more individually. And then finally, I was just tired of repeating myself truthfully. So I started putting together just some raw videos to say, hey, this is what it is, and then once we hop on a call, it's a lot more fruitful because I'm not starting from the beginning. Right. And that's kind of how, my current company, Clear Vision Investing started, was just based out of that, was literally women physicians, most physicians, but a lot of women physicians, because I think they resonate with my story, coming to me and asking like, I want to do this. Can you help me? So that's kind of how it all started and how I'm helping physicians now.
So how can we find out more about what you're doing and learn how to work with you?
You could find me at my website, clearvisioninvesting.com. And you could also email me at nancy@clearvisioninvesting.com. And I would love to connect with anyone, particularly any woman physician.
Great. And you said there's some resources on your website as well.
Absolutely. Free resources on there just to learn more about what is this multifamily apartment syndication and what it's all about and how it may or may not fit, your investing goals. But love to hop on a call with anyone who's interested and just to chat and see, how I could help them.
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing that, because I think anything that can provide us as women in medicine with autonomy and freedom, that's the key. That's what I keep hearing from everyone is we need more autonomy and freedom. So real estate syndication is the way to do it. And if it's a possibility, then that's great because like you said, it's passive and we could all use passive income. So thanks so much. And I will have all these contact ways to get in touch with you on the show notes for the podcast and in the description too. So everyone can find it there. Thanks for joining me, and I will thanks everybody else for watching and listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Dr. Nancy Huynh about learning about real estate, and especially real estate syndication, and how there's a possibility for passive income. And that may not be the level that you're at right now, but it's just nice to know that there's different ways out there to invest and to have build your wealth, and that way that provides you more potential for freedom and autonomy in the future. So if you believe in the mission that on this channel of women in medicine, helping women in medicine reclaim their mental and physical health and rediscover their love of medicine through finding creative and different ways to avoid burnout and maybe expand their wealth, expand their horizons as far as careers go, maybe change careers, then I would love it if you could join me on my Patreon page and support it by becoming a patron. I have different levels and different tiers. There's private groups there. There's live streams where we can talk about some of the episodes and address your questions. And then there's also, some private calls on certain levels and a welcome gift. So if you want to help there, you can I'll have that in the show notes for podcast listeners and in the description for YouTube viewers. And for YouTube, if you want to support without joining Patreon, please like, subscribe, and share this video out. And leave a comment down below. That helps the channel grow. And then if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, please leave a review. That helps others hear about the podcast. And please share with your friends and family and whoever you think would benefit from this information. So thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.